I never saw it coming. Not like this. Not in the quiet of a Sunday evening when the air was warm, the house smelled like fresh coffee, and everything felt normal. Sanaa looked at me, her eyes somewhere between guilt and uncertainty, and she said it. I think I need a break. A break. Those words hit me like a fist wrapped in velvet. Soft, almost gentle, but brutal in the way they tore through the life I thought I knew. I blinked. I tried to understand. My mind raced, grasping for logic, for reason, for anything that could make this make sense. A break, I asked, my voice smaller than I expected. From us. She nodded, almost apologetically, said she needed space to figure herself out, to understand who she was, who she wanted to be. And just like that, the world I'd built around us, the shared laughter in the mornings, the quiet dinners, the way we fit like two pieces of the same puzzle, began to unravel in my hands. I agreed. I think I agreed because I loved her, because I trusted her, because I thought it was temporary, harmless. I thought time and space could heal whatever it was that hurt her without hurting me in the process. But as I nodded, as I forced a smile, my chest tightened, my stomach churned, and doubt crept in like a shadow in the corners of my mind. What did I do wrong? Was it something I didn't see? Something I failed to give? I replayed every conversation, every glance, every silence between us. I searched for mistakes I might have made, for moments where I should have been more, should have said more, should have loved more. And in that searching, I realized how fragile my certainty had been, how easily the foundation of everything I thought was solid could crack. I called Armin that night. His voice, usually steady, became my anchor. He didn't offer easy answers. He didn't pretend this would be simple. But he reminded me, gently, insistently, that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's choices. That love, real love, isn't measured by permission or possession. That sometimes holding on too tightly can be as dangerous as letting go. But even with that in mind, I couldn't stop the nights from stretching endlessly, from echoing with imagined scenarios and whispered fears. I couldn't stop myself from checking my phone for messages that never came, from feeling like each silence was an accusation, a verdict, a judgment on me. I thought about the life we had built together, about the plans we made, the dreams we shared. I thought about her laughter, her touch, the way she said my name. And I realized that love, mine, hers, ours, could be both a blessing and a burden. It could lift you up and tear you apart with equal force. And yet, in that confusion, in that fear, in that aching uncertainty, something began to shift. I understood in the smallest, quietest way that this moment, painful as it was, wasn't the end of me. It wasn't even the end of us. It was a mirror. It reflected back everything I had taken for granted, everything I had assumed, everything I needed to confront within myself. I don't know where this break will lead. I don't know if we'll find our way back or drift further apart. But I do know this. My heart, though shaken, is still capable of hope. My mind, though filled with questions, is still capable of clarity. And I, though fragile in this moment, am learning the first lesson of survival and love, that sometimes, to hold on, you must first accept what you cannot control. Sanaa walked away that night, and I stayed. And in the quiet that followed, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, a raw, trembling awareness that my life, my love, myself would never be the same. And maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. It started with little things, tiny threads I didn't notice at first, or maybe I did, and I chose to ignore them. After Sanaa asked for the break, I tried so hard to convince myself this was temporary, that she just needed space, that everything was fine. But the world has a way of revealing cracks if you're willing to look closely enough. I noticed her phone buzzing late at night, the way she glanced at it when I entered the room, the way her smile faltered for just a second. I told myself I was imagining it. Maybe it was a coworker. Maybe it was her mother. Maybe it was nothing. And yet, the seed of doubt had been planted, growing quietly in the corners of my mind. Then there were social media posts, the subtle likes, the stories that appeared and disappeared too quickly, the comments from people I barely knew. Innocent, I told myself. Harmless. But every new notification felt like a small jolt to my chest, a reminder that I didn't know the life she was living when I wasn't there. Her stories didn't line up. She told me one thing about her day, only to tell someone else a slightly different version later. It was minor, easily dismissed, but my gut knew. My gut screamed, and I tried to silence it. I told myself I was overthinking, that love shouldn't be a battleground of suspicion. But the more I tried to ignore it, the louder the whispers inside my head became. I replayed every conversation, every glance, every word that now seemed loaded with hidden meaning. I asked myself questions I didn't want answers to. Was she hiding something? Did she regret this marriage? Was I enough? And with each question, my chest tightened, my sleep became restless, and the room I was in felt colder, emptier. Friends commented, subtly at first. Armin mentioned how people change when they feel trapped, how even the closest bonds can falter. Coworkers remarked casually about couples taking breaks, about the temptation of new attention. I nodded, laughed along, but inside my mind was a storm. Every passing remark felt like a warning I couldn't ignore, a sign pointing to a truth I wasn't ready to face. The worst was the not knowing if she was thinking of me, of us, or of someone else entirely. Not knowing if the intimacy we once shared was a memory for her or a fleeting obligation. Not knowing if the trust one had placed so completely in her was misplaced. I caught myself checking my phone constantly, reading too deeply into the simplest things. Her typing indicators, her delayed replies, the way she smiled in pictures that weren't meant for me. I hated myself for it, for letting paranoia creep in, for letting fear take root. And yet, I couldn't stop. I wanted answers I didn't deserve to demand, and I feared the answers I might uncover. At night, I lay awake, listening for the sound of her car returning, her footsteps, anything that might confirm or deny my growing suspicions. The silence of the apartment pressed in on me, heavy and suffocating. And in those quiet hours, I realized something. It wasn't just about her. It was about me, about my need to control, my fear of being abandoned, my inability to sit with uncertainty. But the signs kept coming, subtle and relentless. A missed call here, a vague explanation there, laughter I couldn't place. Every moment of inconsistency was like a pinprick to the heart, a reminder that the life I thought I knew was shifting beneath me. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe in us. But the evidence, though fragmentary, was a shadow that followed me everywhere. I started seeing patterns where there were none, reading between lines that might not have existed, imagining scenarios that would break me if they were true. The love I had felt so intensely was now tangled with fear, suspicion, and grief. It was a strange, painful duality, wanting to hold on while bracing for the inevitable. And yet, even in the chaos of doubt, even as my mind spiraled with every small inconsistency, a small, stubborn part of me still wanted to believe, wanted to trust that this was a test, a misunderstanding, a temporary lapse that could be repaired with patience and care. But patience is hard when your heart is a battlefield, and care feels impossible when every gesture could be hiding something else. The signs I missed were everywhere, but I've been too hopeful, too trusting, too blind. And now, living in the tension between trust and doubt, I realized that hope alone wasn't enough to protect me from the truth, whatever that truth might be. I never imagined it would hit me like this. I never imagined the world could tilt, the air could crack, and the floor beneath me could disappear in a single, unbearable moment. But that morning, no, that exact second, I realized everything I thought I knew about my life, about us, was a lie. I saw her. Sanaa. My Sanaa. Not at home, not in the world we built together, but somewhere else, with someone else. Rizwan. I barely recognized him, barely wanted to register his existence, and yet there they were. Laughing, close, comfortable. A life she was living without me. While I had been counting the hours, replaying our memories, trying desperately to justify her absence, to give her the benefit of the doubt. My heart didn't break. It shattered. The pieces scattered into a storm of disbelief, anger, humiliation, and sorrow so sharp I could hardly breathe. I stumbled back, not sure if I was looking or if my mind was pretending, hoping it wasn't real. But it was real. Every detail I had ignored, every uneasy feeling I had pushed aside, every small inconsistency in her stories. It was all pointing to this moment, and I had been blind. How could she lie? How could she betray me like this while wearing the mask of love, while claiming she needed space? How could I have been so naive, so trusting, so utterly convinced that my love was enough to hold her? I replayed every missed call, every strange laugh, every sudden silence. The signs were there, staring me in the face, but I had refused to see them. I had wanted to believe so badly that I had refused the truth. Rage and sorrow collided in a way that left me paralyzed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. I wanted her to see me collapse, to feel the devastation she had caused. I wanted to demand answers, confessions, apologies, maybe even tears that could mirror my own. But words failed me. My throat tightened, my chest felt heavy, and all I could do was watch, numb, as the life I thought I had was stripped away in front of me. And yet, beneath the shock, beneath the raw, screaming pain, a bitter clarity began to form. This wasn't just about her. This was about me, too. About my own blindness, my own willingness to ignore the signs because I wanted to preserve a version of reality that no longer existed. I had been complicit in my own heartbreak by trusting too easily, by giving love without question, by ignoring my instincts. I remember feeling small, diminished, humiliated. I had imagined confronting her would be about reasoning, about discussing emotions, about finding a path forward. Instead, it became a mirror reflecting my own vulnerability, my own mistakes, and my own inability to see the truth until it was a jagged knife in my chest. And then came the rage. Hot, bitter, consuming. Not just at her, but at everyone and everything that had allowed this to happen. The friends who knew, maybe and laughed quietly. The moments I had dismissed as harmless, maybe they weren't harmless at all. The love I had given so freely, so completely, now used as a weapon against me by the person I had trusted above all others. I questioned everything. Our life together, the laughter, the intimacy, the plans we had made. Was any of it real? Or had it all been a carefully constructed illusion? And in that questioning, in that whirlwind of disbelief and betrayal, I understood something fundamental. I could not continue like this. I could not remain a passive observer to my own destruction. The world seemed smaller, crueler, as if it were testing me, pushing me to a breaking point. I felt hollow, yet something inside me sparked. A spark I hadn't felt in days, weeks, maybe months. A spark of determination, of refusal, of understanding that I could not let this define me. That I needed closure, that I needed truth, that I needed, if nothing else, to reclaim some fragment of my life from the chaos she had left behind. And in that hollow, shattering moment, I realized the path forward would not be gentle. It would not be about forgiving easily or forgetting quickly. It would be about facing the betrayal, naming it, feeling it in every fiber of my being, and then deciding how I would rise from it, stronger, more aware, more capable of protecting myself from such devastation again. I walked away that day with tears threatening, my mind racing, my heart bleeding, but with one thought cutting through the storm. I would not be broken by this. I would not be diminished by her choices. I would survive. And whether that survival meant confronting her, exposing the truth, or finding my own form of justice, I would find it. The shock, the disbelief, the humiliation, it would linger. It would sting. It would scar. But it also ignited something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in too long: clarity. And maybe, just maybe, the first step toward reclaiming my life, toward reclaiming my dignity, was accepting the raw, unvarnished reality, no matter how much it hurt. Because sometimes the truth doesn't just arrive quietly. Sometimes it crashes through the walls you've built, drags you into the dirt, and leaves you there to pick up the pieces. And all you can do is rise, knowing that the pieces you gather next will be stronger than the ones you lost. I can't remember the last time I slept, or ate, or felt like myself. Days blur into nights, and nights into a hollow, endless stretch of quiet despair. The apartment, once full of warmth and laughter, now feels like a tomb. I move through it like a ghost, touching objects that still smell faintly of her, seeing shadows where she used to be, hearing echoes of her voice in the corners of every room. Every memory screams at me. The first time she smiled at me across that crowded room. The lazy Sunday mornings, coffee in hand, wrapped in blankets. The way she used to call my name softly in the dark. And now, those memories are knives, twisting in ways I never imagined. I keep asking myself where it went wrong, how I missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. Every detail, every gesture, every laugh, it becomes another piece of evidence, another proof of my failure. I replay the day I saw her with him, Rizwan, over and over. Her laugh, the ease in her movements, the way she looked at him like she once looked at me. My stomach twists just thinking about it. It's a betrayal that isn't just emotional. It's physical, like a weight pressing down on my chest, constricting my lungs, making it hard to breathe. I can feel the humiliation crawling under my skin, creeping into my bones. Armin calls sometimes. He tells me to eat, to sleep, to take care of myself. But how can I? How can I care for myself when the person I trusted most has dismantled my world, when every moment reminds me that the person I loved is gone, replaced by someone else's life? I hear his voice, steady and calm, and I want to believe him. I want to trust that it will get better. But the truth is it doesn't. Not yet. Not when the betrayal is still raw, when my mind is a looping film of her smile with him, her lies, my own naivety. Friends try to help, but their words feel hollow. Time heals. You'll find someone else. Maybe it's for the best. Do they understand? Can they understand? Their voices hit like distant thunder, meaningless advice against the storm inside me. I feel isolated, alien, as if the world has turned on me, not because of anything I did, but because I was vulnerable enough to love. Even strangers become mirrors of my shame. The neighbors who see me walking the street at night, the colleagues who notice my exhaustion, the casual comments at work. All of it reminds me that I am broken, that I am exposed, that I am human in the rawest, most helpless way. I feel the judgment, the pity, the quiet whispers, and I hate it. I hate that my pain is visible, that my heart's fragility is on display for everyone to see. The nights are the worst. When the apartment is silent, when the city sleeps and the world turns away, I am left with myself. And I am unkind to myself. I ask the questions I know I cannot answer. Why did she do this? Was I not enough? Could I have prevented it? Could I have loved her better? The answers don't exist, or if they do, they're cruel and sharp. I can almost feel her absence as a weight, an emptiness that fills the space beside me, beside the bed we once shared, beside the life we once imagined. I try to distract myself, to work, to read, to occupy the mind, but nothing sticks. Thoughts return like relentless waves, dragging me under, pushing me deeper into a place I can't see past. I'm angry, yes, furious even, but it's intertwined with grief, with shame, with the ache of knowing I gave everything and it wasn't enough. I hate myself for caring so deeply, for trusting so fully, for being human in a world that sometimes feels cruelly indifferent. Armin listens when I call. Sometimes we sit in silence, the phone between us, as if simply hearing his presence anchors me for a moment. He doesn't have answers, but he offers something I desperately need: recognition. Recognition that I am struggling, that this is real, that it is valid. And yet, even that is not enough to fill the emptiness, to quiet the thoughts that circle endlessly like vultures, picking apart my sense of self, my sense of worth. I feel lost, completely lost, not just in love, but in myself. Every memory of Sanaa is now a paradox, both precious and poisonous. The life we built, the promises, the laughter, the intimacy, it's all a shadow I can no longer touch without pain. And still, even amidst the heartbreak, a small, raw part of me wonders how to survive this, how to reclaim my identity, how to find a way out of the abyss I've fallen into. I don't have the answers yet. I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't fully breathe. But I can feel. I can feel the devastation, the betrayal, the shame, the anger, and yes, even the stubborn spark of something unbroken inside me. And maybe, one day, that spark will be enough to pull me out of this darkness. But for now, I sit here in the hollow of my own despair, letting the pain exist, letting the heartbreak carve its mark, letting myself grieve what was lost and what I never saw coming. Because sometimes, the only way to survive the abyss is to let yourself fall into it first, fully, completely, and with nothing left to hide. I keep turning it over in my mind. Sana, Rizwan, their laughter, their ease, the life they are living while I am left with the ruins. Every fiber of me wants to scream, to rage, to expose them, to make them feel even a fraction of the devastation they've caused. Part of me imagines standing in front of her, voice trembling, anger blazing, demanding answers, confessions, apologies. I imagine Rizwan shrinking under my glare, realizing the gravity of what he's taken. And yet, every time I picture that confrontation, a small, quieter voice pushes back. What will it accomplish? Will it fix anything? Or will it just deepen the wound, keep me tethered to a pain I need to escape rather than heal? Revenge feels like a fire, hot, satisfying for a moment, but consuming everything it touches. And I've already lost so much. Do I really want to lose more of myself in the flames of anger? I think about the lessons hidden in the wreckage, the broken trust, the signs I missed, the nights I spent questioning my own worth. There's a strange clarity in that pain, a bitter, sharp wisdom that whispers. You cannot control what others choose, but you can control what you allow to define you. Every act of betrayal is theirs, not yours. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal is theirs to carry, not mine. I remember something my mentor once told me, quietly, almost in passing: anger is easy. Strength is harder. Strength is choosing what matters over what hurts. I never understood it fully then. Now, sitting alone with my thoughts, I understand it too well. Strength isn't in confronting them. Strength isn't in revenge. Strength is in deciding who I want to be after this, how I will navigate the aftermath without letting them dictate my life, my emotions, my future. But still, the pull of confrontation lingers. Part of me wants to shake her, to force her to face what she's done, to shatter the carefully constructed facade she hides behind. Part of me wants Rizwan to see the consequences of stepping into a life already claimed, to feel the weight of the reality they have created. It is a visceral, human urge, a demand for justice, a need for recognition that I existed, that my love was real, that my trust was sacred. And yet, in the same heartbeat, I feel something else. I feel the exhaustion of being consumed by others' choices. I feel the hollowness of letting someone else dictate my emotional state. I feel the quiet, persistent whisper that the only confrontation that truly matters is with myself, with my own pain, my own anger, my own boundaries. That is where the power lies, not in punishment, not in exposure, not in making them feel anything, but in reclaiming myself from the wreckage they left behind. I weigh it. Revenge could give me a fleeting sense of satisfaction, but it would chain me to the past. Letting go, truly letting go, would be terrifying, abandoning the hope of confrontation, releasing the need for recognition, accepting that they will live their lives while I live mine. And yet, maybe letting go is the act of strength I've been seeking all along. I imagine my future, a life untethered from the shadows of betrayal. A life where my decisions are guided not by the echoes of their choices, but by my own values, my own principles, my own peace. I see myself standing tall, not because I've hurt them, not because they've suffered, but because I've chosen to rise above the storm, because I've chosen to reclaim control over my own existence. The moral dilemma gnaws at me. It is not simple. It is not easy. The desire for revenge, the need for closure, the pull of human indignation, all of it is natural, all of it is valid. And yet, Even amidst that validity, a stronger truth emerges. I cannot build my life around their mistakes. I cannot shape my path according to their betrayals. I can only shape it according to who I want to be, what I stand for, and the peace I am willing to fight for within myself. I close my eyes and breathe. I feel the tension in my chest, the lingering heat of anger, the ache of heartbreak. I feel the weight of my choice pressing down, demanding clarity, demanding resolve. And I realize whether I confront or I let go is not just a decision about them. It is a decision about me, about my identity, about the life I refuse to let betrayal steal from me. And in that moment, a strange calm begins to settle over the storm inside me. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I will see them again, if I will hear her voice, if I will ever encounter Rizwan in the halls of my memory. But I do know this. The power I've been seeking has never been theirs to give or take. It has always been mine. And whatever choice I make, to confront or to let go, I will make it on my terms, with awareness, with intention, with the first glimmer of peace in a life that has been anything but. Because the only closure that truly matters is the one I create for myself. The only revenge worth seeking is the one that transforms my pain into clarity, my heartbreak into strength, and my chaos into a path forward. And that, finally, feels like something I can hold on to. I woke up one morning and realized something had shifted, however slightly. The ache in my chest was still there, sharp, lingering, a reminder of what had been lost. But beneath it, I sensed something new. Possibility. The kind of possibility that doesn't announce itself with fireworks or grand epiphanies, but creeps in quietly, through small choices, through tiny acts of courage. I decided, finally, that I would stop living in the shadow of betrayal. Not because the past had changed, not because Sana or Rizwan deserved forgiveness or understanding, but because I owed it to myself. I owed it to the person I was before all of this, and the person I wanted to become. The first step wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a declaration to the world. It was simply deciding to breathe again, to reclaim space that had been surrendered to anger, grief, and self-doubt. I started with small things. Morning runs, even when my legs burned, even when my mind screamed that it didn't matter. Cooking my own meals, listening to music that stirred something in me, revisiting hobbies I had abandoned when love had consumed my focus. Every step, no matter how minor, became a statement. I am still here. I'm still me. And I can build again. Friends became important in ways they hadn't before. Armin remained a steady presence, a reminder that loyalty and care exist even when the world seems cruel. But new connections, too, began to matter. People who saw me, who listened without judgment, who encouraged without pity. Zara was one of those rare presences. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't offer cliches or advice I wasn't ready to hear. She simply reflected back a version of myself I had forgotten, capable, alive, and deserving of trust. Trust, I realized, was fragile. Mine had been shattered, fragmented into pieces I wasn't sure I could ever collect. But rebuilding didn't mean forcing it back into a perfect whole. It meant learning to believe in my own judgment, to listen to my instincts again, to create boundaries that protected my heart without isolating it completely. It meant understanding that trust isn't given blindly. It's earned carefully, deliberately, and with discernment. I began noticing small victories. Waking up without immediate dread. Laughing without feeling guilty. Finishing a project at work that I had postponed for months because my mind had been occupied with pain. Talking to friends and genuinely feeling present in the conversation. These were not monumental triumphs, but they mattered. They mattered because they were mine, because they reminded me that life continues even after betrayal, and that resilience is built through persistence, not sudden breakthroughs. I faced moments of doubt, of course. Memories of Sanaa would surface unbidden. The familiar laughter, the warmth of her touch, the promises we had made. Sometimes I would stumble, feeling anger, grief, or longing all at once. But I learned not to judge myself for these reactions. They were human, unavoidable, and yet they did not have to define the choices I made now. They were reminders of growth, not chains to the past. Creating boundaries became a form of self-respect. I no longer allowed conversations, reminders, or environments to pull me into the emotional whirlpool of the past. I recognized the difference between healthy reflection and destructive rumination. I started to curate the people and experiences in my life, surrounding myself with those who encouraged growth, accountability, and honesty. Slowly, I realized that my world, my mind, my heart, my life could feel safe again, even if only piece by piece. Physical well-being mirrored emotional progress. I moved my body, not as punishment or distraction, but as celebration, honoring the vessel that had carried me through pain, that had endured heartbreak and betrayal. I felt muscle strain, lungs burn, heart race, and in that effort I discovered freedom. I was reclaiming a part of myself I hadn't realized I had lost. A sense of agency, a sense of pride, a sense of control over the simplest, yet most profound aspects of my existence. And then there was the quietest, yet most significant realization. I could be whole without her. I could be strong without validation from the person who had deceived me. I could love myself without needing her approval, without needing her presence to confirm my worth. That understanding was not sudden. It was gradual, built through persistence, reflection, and small, deliberate acts of self-care and courage. Zara noticed a shift before I did. Her presence was gentle but firm, encouraging without forcing. She reminded me that opening up again, allowing connection, wasn't weakness. It was proof of strength, a willingness to embrace life, even when scars remained. And slowly, imperceptibly, I began to believe her. I am not the same person who loved blindly, who ignored warning signs, who allowed betrayal to define him. I am someone learning, growing, surviving. The pain hasn't disappeared. It lingers like a shadow that reminds me of what I endured. But alongside it is something else: clarity, empowerment, hope. I am rebuilding, not because I need to prove anything to anyone, but because I need to prove it to myself. And every small victory, every step forward, every act of reclaiming my heart and mind is a testament that even after devastation, even after betrayal, life continues. And with effort, patience, and courage, it can flourish again. I saw it happen quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a storm rolling in without warning. Sanaa's world, once so carefully constructed, began to fracture under the weight of her choices. I didn't have to orchestrate it. I didn't have to intervene. Karma, in its subtle, unrelenting way, began to unfold, not as vengeance, but as consequence. And watching it, I realized how far I had come. Rizwan, who had seemed untouchable in his place beside her, started revealing cracks I hadn't anticipated. Arguments, misunderstandings, frustrations that had been hidden beneath the surface began to emerge. I heard rumors, small whispers from mutual acquaintances, the kind of things that confirm truths without needing proof. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the urge to gloat. I didn't want to savor their pain or use it to make myself feel superior. That satisfaction, if it existed, was quiet, almost imperceptible, and it came from knowing the truth has a way of balancing itself. Some of the friends who had laughed at me, who had whispered, who had sided subtly or overtly with a betrayal, began to face consequences too. Regret, disapproval from others, awkwardness in social circles. Nothing dramatic, nothing explosive. Just the natural realignment of actions and consequences. I observed from a distance, detached, almost neutral, and it struck me how unnecessary my involvement would have been. Karma didn't need my hands to deliver justice. It simply unfolded in its own time, in its own way. I remember feeling a strange mix of relief and empowerment. Relief that I no longer had to expend energy on revenge, on schemes, on trying to make them feel the weight of what they had done. Empowerment because I had realized that my life, my choices, my peace could no longer be dictated by their actions. For years, I had allowed anger, grief, and betrayal to control me. Now, Witnessing the natural consequences of their choices, I understood that the only control worth claiming was over my own heart. I felt no rush to confront Sanaa. I felt no desire to remind her of the havoc she had caused. The fire I once carried for revenge had cooled, leaving behind clarity. I could feel her mistakes in the fabric of her life, and it was enough. I had no need to participate in her suffering because it was happening naturally, and that was sufficient. The satisfaction wasn't born of malice. It was born of understanding, of recognizing that life, unassisted, has a way of balancing itself. Even the betrayals, the lies, the laughter at my expense, they no longer held power over me. Memories that once twisted my stomach now existed as reminders of my resilience. Every pang of anger that had once consumed me had been replaced by a quiet acknowledgement. I survived. I endured. I rebuilt. And they, by contrast, were left to face the consequences of the choices they made. I walked through the city one evening, sunlight fading over the skyline, and felt a calm I hadn't known for months. People moved around me, oblivious to the quiet reckoning that had been unfolding. And yet, it didn't matter. My satisfaction was internal, not performative. It was rooted in the awareness that I no longer needed validation, revenge, or recognition to feel whole. The storm that had once defined my existence had passed, and what remained was clarity, self-respect, and a sense of balance I hadn't thought possible. I reflected on the journey it had taken to reach this point, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the nights spent questioning my worth. I remembered the abyss I had fallen into, the despair, the anger, the relentless self-doubt. And I realized something fundamental. Closure was not found in punishment, in witnessing their pain, or in forcing apologies. Closure was found in detachment, in choosing not to let their actions dictate my emotional state, in reclaiming my peace despite the chaos they had created. Zara, quiet and steadfast, noticed a shift before I did. She didn't praise me or comment, but her presence reminded me that healing was visible, that growth had a shape even when it felt intangible. I realized that the real karma wasn't theirs. It was mine. Mine to claim, mine to experience, mine to protect. My growth, my healing, my ability to rise above bitterness. That was the truest measure of consequence. I no longer feared encountering Sanaa or Rizwan. The anger that had once surged at the mere thought of their faces had dulled, replaced by something steadier, harder to describe. A recognition that their lives were no longer mine to manage, that my story was separate, and that I had the power to live it on my terms. The world could play out as it would. I had found my peace regardless. And in that detachment, I discovered freedom. Freedom from resentment. Freedom from needing answers. Freedom from the weight of their choices. The universe had shown me that justice doesn't always need an agent. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, unobserved, and yet perfectly fair. I walked home that evening with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. The sun had set, but the city lights shimmered like tiny reminders of possibility. I was no longer consumed by bitterness. I was no longer tethered to betrayal. I had learned to witness consequences without needing to orchestrate them, to feel satisfaction without malice, and to hold myself as the center of my own story. Closure, I realized, had never been about them. It had always been about me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt complete. I look back now and barely recognize the person I was when this all began. The man who trusted blindly, who ignored warning signs, who let heartbreak define him. He feels distant, almost unreal. And yet, every step of that journey, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, every pang of betrayal was necessary. They forged me into someone different, someone stronger, someone who no longer fears the weight of his own choices. I have learned to trust myself again. Not just the easy trust, the naive trust that leaves you exposed, but the deeper, quieter trust, the kind that comes from knowing your instincts, your boundaries, your worth. I no longer give my energy away to people or situations that do not deserve it. I have learned the subtle art of protecting my own peace, of recognizing when love is real and when it is a shadow of its promise. Boundaries have become my allies. I no longer bend to please or to appease. I no longer hide my needs or pretend that silence can replace honesty. These boundaries are not walls. They are declarations. They say to the world, I am here. I will not be diminished. I will not be taken for granted. And the people who enter my life now, supportive, trustworthy, encouraging, they honor those boundaries because they recognize the value of the person I have become. Independence, which once felt lonely and frightening, now feels like liberation. I move through the world with my own rhythm, make my own decisions, and feel the thrill of living without the shadow of betrayal hanging over every choice. My life is mine to shape, not dictated by past mistakes, other people's actions, or the ghosts of relationships that no longer exist. Independence has shown me that I am complete on my own, capable of creating meaning, joy, and connection without relying on validation from those who once hurt me. The scars remain. I can feel them, subtle yet persistent, like faint echoes beneath my skin. They remind me of what I endured, of what I survived, and of the lessons I cannot unlearn. But the scars no longer wound me the way they once did. They are not burdens but markers of growth, proof that I have faced darkness and walked through it, carrying more wisdom, resilience, and clarity than before. Friends have become more precious than ever. Armin, constant and steady, has seen me through despair and now walks beside me in my rebuilding. Zara, gentle yet unwavering, has reminded me that trust is not foolishness, that connection can coexist with self-respect, that opening your heart again is an act of courage. And my mentor's quiet guidance lingers, a reminder that growth is incremental, that strength is often found in the small, deliberate choices we make when no one is watching. I think of Sanaa, of Rizwan, of those who chose paths that led away from honesty and integrity. Their lives continue. Their consequences unfold naturally, and I no longer carry the desire to interfere, to punish, or to exact revenge. I have learned that closure is not about controlling their stories. Closure is about reclaiming your own. Watching life take its course, observing truth unfold without my involvement, has been liberating. It has shown me that detachment, not interference, is the true measure of emotional maturity. I have come to understand that peace does not mean absence of pain. It does not mean forgetting the betrayal, pretending it never happened, or pretending the scars aren't there. Peace is a choice to live fully, to embrace the present, to trust yourself, to allow life to unfold without being chained to past hurt. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that your story is still being written and that you are its author, not a character in someone else's narrative. There are moments when memory surfaces, when grief or anger rises unexpectedly, and I feel the echo of what was lost. But these moments no longer have the power to derail me. I breathe, I acknowledge the feeling, and I let it pass. I have learned the rhythm of my own heart, the steadiness of my own mind, the clarity of my own judgment. And in that, I have found something priceless: freedom. I walk through life now with a new awareness, a new sense of self. I notice the small joys, the subtle victories, the ways in which everyday moments can be meaningful. I embrace opportunities for growth, for connection, for living with integrity. And I carry with me the knowledge that heartbreak, betrayal, and loss are not endpoints but catalysts. Painful, yes, but transformative. And so I move forward, stronger, wiser, tempered by fire, yet open to possibility. I carry no bitterness, only understanding. I carry no anger, only lessons. I carry no dependence, only trust in myself and life, and in the quiet, steady pulse of hope that tells me that no matter what happened, no matter who left, no matter who hurt me, life continues. And I am ready. I am ready to live fully, to love wisely, to trust cautiously, and to embrace the unknown with the confidence that comes from surviving the storm. The past will always be a part of me, but does not define me. It has shaped me, yes, but it has also liberated me. And in that liberation, I have discovered the most powerful truth, that life, in all its beauty and chaos, goes on, and so do I. I step forward now, unafraid, unshaken, and whole in ways I never imagined possible. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that pain has a way of teaching you what nothing else can. Betrayal cuts deeper than any argument, any failure, any loss. But it also exposes the parts of you that were hidden, the strengths you never knew you had, the resilience buried beneath fear and trust. I want you to understand something important. The wounds you carry, the nights you lie awake questioning yourself, the moments you feel too broken to move forward, they are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of being human. They are evidence that you dared to care, to love, to trust. And surviving that, rebuilding from it, is the proof of your strength. I speak to you not from some distant pedestal, but from the depths I have walked myself. I know what it feels like to be hollowed out by someone else's choices, to feel the weight of betrayal pressed down on your chest, to wonder if your heart will ever beat normally again. I know that confusion, that rage, that grief. And I know the other side exists. I know that you can emerge. You can heal. You can reclaim your life, even if the scars remain. The truth is, closure isn't about them. It's not about revenge or proving yourself or making anyone else feel the impact of their actions. Closure is about you. It's about the quiet, unshakable decision to take back your peace, to protect your heart, to honor yourself even when the world seems indifferent. And so, when you feel the sting of betrayal, when you feel the darkness closing in, remember this. Every heartbreak, every lie, every shattered trust carries a lesson. And every lesson, when absorbed, transforms pain into power. You do not have to be defined by what was taken from you. You define yourself by how you rise, by how you rebuild, by how you choose to live despite the hurt. Life will continue. People will change. Situations will resolve themselves in ways you cannot control. But what you can control, what no one can ever take from you, is the strength you cultivate in the aftermath. And if you carry that forward, you are unstoppable. Pain is not the end. It is the beginning of knowing who you truly are. And if you embrace it, you will never be the same in the best way possible.